You're listening to the Business Communicators.
Let's go on to our next subject, which is CEOs, companies, and social activism. And, we've mentioned this on the podcast a little bit. I think when we had Tonya Reese on from Edelman, we mentioned the Edelman Trust Barometer and what we've kind of seen from trends over the last, 4 or 5 years, especially with Gen Z and a lot of millennials, is they're supporting companies they believe are doing the right thing socially. We've seen a lot of people support Nike compared to Under Armour. Ironically, both Thomas and I are wearing Under Armour right now.
Yep.
But we've seen a lot of people support Nike because of stances they've taken on social issues. And we see their share price going back to 2017 just skyrocketing. Under Armour, on the other hand, has stayed silent a lot. Their share price is kind of tanking a little bit. But we look at trust numbers. And the Edelman Trust Barometer says people don't trust Congress. They don't trust the media. They might not trust certain energy sectors or big businesses or things like that. But the highest trust factor came from CEOs. And people said that they want their CEOs to speak up on key issues. And recently we've seen a lot of big businesses like Delta, Coca-Cola, Major League Baseball speak up on the issue in Georgia, which is really making voter rules more restrictive. We're not going to get into the legal side of, the policy side of Georgia, but we do want to discuss the business aspect because I think this is the larger question. 10, 15 years ago, companies wouldn't comment on something like this. They would only comment on a public issue if one of the people they endorsed, did something wrong publicly. I mean, we look at, Tiger Woods, for example. We saw companies issue a statement, pull away and back away from Tiger Woods. But now we're seeing companies proactively engage on key social issues. And Hattie, I'm going to start with you. Is this the right move for companies to engage on social issues and CEOs to be activists on issues? And if so, what is the best way to communicate this to their stakeholders, their employees, their customers?
The short answer for me is yes. I do believe they should get involved or speak up when something is not right. As you said, long ago, you had companies didn't even want to talk about climate, environment, or any of that.
Just 2 years ago.
Yeah, and now you have issues that are related to, you have race relations, you have political issues, you have, and I don't want to get into all of it, but the thing is, staying silent is not an option anymore. You have employees who take direction and are influenced by how CEOs approach things. When you're communicating, whether it's your tone is empathetic or where you're going to take a stand about something, but you have to be clear about why you're doing it from a human aspect, because CEOs are not just business people, they're human beings, and they all have different beliefs. At the same time, they know that whatever they do or whatever they say is going to impact their business overall. And where it goes from there is that employees who are listening and want to believe that their CEOs care about the environment, care about other people, and not just put a bunch of action statements out there, but they're going to do something about it now, because you said earlier that millennials, or whoever these people are that are being labeled in different way, I don't really label folks, but you have folks who want to work for companies that care about things and not just about business. So yeah. Short answer, yes. I think they should get involved.
They want companies to do the right thing. And I think companies now, you're starting to see more activist investors, and they're not going to invest in your company, and they're not going to give you funding if you're not doing the right thing on key issues. But Thomas, I do have a question, kind of twofold. So last year, the company that I worked for, it was after the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor murders. And we had like a town hall discussion, and it was our CEO and our chairman, who were both based in Europe. And the whole purpose of this conversation was to discuss, how we needed to embrace diversity, and stand up. And, at this time, the company had given employees MLK Day off as well as Juneteenth off to recognize. And I kind of felt they were just checking a box, and that these people were just not really genuine and aware of the situation of what was going on, and to kind of show that they were out of touch. And I don't know if this is they definitely didn't plan on this, but the chairman of the company, he made a comment at the end of the webcast saying, "It's very important to remember that all lives matter." And I remember when he said that, I was like, he is completely tone deaf. Like, he has no idea what's going on in the U.S. Like, he has no idea that that's a huge source of conflict. And so my concern is, Thomas, I'm going to ask you this question. It's got to be genuine if CEOs and corporations are stepping up on key social issues. And does it matter if you have an issue going on here in the U.S. and you've got a activist CEO based in London who decides that he wants to comment on something that's happening in the United States? I mean, is that genuine, or can it be potentially misguided?
I like to think that actions speak louder than words. You hit the nail on the head. Is it just a checkbox? Are we just saying the corporate rhetoric to make sure that we're current and supporting what it is? But it comes back down to it is, are they making the donations for it? Are they telling people to take time off to go support those things? Are they doing other stuff like that versus just a town hall meeting saying it? But that last statement was totally, not in tune with what should have been said by any stretch of the imagination. It was tone deaf, and part of it is, I was on a call with someone from Brazil yesterday. And he was filling me in on all the stuff that's going on with Brazil with the COVID and how the lockdowns and everything like there. And I was grateful. And I'm like, here in the States right now, the only news I'm really getting is the selected news in the United States and globally. So I don't know what's going on really outside of some very key pockets of what the media is releasing, unless I'm able to get it. So to your point, I feel he was checking boxes. I feel he was tone deaf. I feel he could have done a lot better job. I'm hoping that since that time he's turned around and started to empower some of the employees to do things. And
you giving him too much.
Yeah, you
credit.
are, because I can give you some inside information. Right after that happened, I actually called our head of communications in the U.S. and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you saw this, but the chairman said this. I think we should flag it and just be prepared, because that's probably going to cause some backlash from employees, whether it's on Yammer, whether it's on, maybe someone leaks it to the media. I don't know." They shrugged it off as like, oh, maybe he just misspoke because he's in a different country. And Hattie, I thought that was the wrong approach.
Well, first and foremost,
I'm agreeing.
part of the deal is a lot of people weren't going to say anything. We say things to each other.
Yes.
We're not going to say anything to you or him or anything, because the feedback or comments to me were, that was the most disingenuous, insincere. A holiday nobody cares about in the first place, that's the best that you could do. But moving back to the fact that you said he was tone deaf about what's going on in the U.S., it's happening in the U.K. too. Racism is high there
Very
just
much true.
as well.
Very much true.
And so it may not be as prevalent, but they're doing the same thing there. But CEOs who actually care about certain things will communicate them in a genuine way, and they will do something. And it's not about supporting or going out in the community and supporting. It's about hiring people in your company that reflect your community, reflect your business, because you do business with all kinds of people. It has been shown, data shows that when you do business with, diversity, you're going to make money. It's very valuable there, but you have to be sincere about it and in what you say. Going back to all these CEOs who are signing these statements about the issue that was going on in Georgia, you got these big names who are even being led by big time companies who are headed by African Americans, American Express, Ariel Investments. And they're bringing other people on, but they're not just signing a statement that says we're pulling out. You've got movies that are pulling out of Georgia. Tyler Perry's not making movies there. Black Panther 2 was supposed to be filmed there, but I believe Coogler's going to pull out. So that's a lot of money that Georgia is going to lose, and that's a big statement.
Yeah, and one thing that we've seen is there has been talk on this before about potentially protesting, or we're not gonna have an all-star game there in 2022 unless this changes, or you're not going to get a Super Bowl bid unless this changes. But Major League Baseball was supposed to have a game this year, like in 3 months, and they pulled out. And I think it was a shock to a lot of people that they actually did pull out. And somebody estimated the revenue of the all-star game being approximately $100 million for the region. That's huge. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of jobs.
You know why it's a big shock for people? Because baseball is inherently...
Don't say it. Don't say it, Hattie. Don't say it.
It is considered, but...
I thought you were going to say boring.
No, it's inherently a white sport.
Very much true.
So people were thinking, oh, shoot, we don't care. We're going to go. Now if it's football, basketball, they're not going to care as much. I mean, they will because they're losing money. But I'm just surprised, given the back end office of baseball, that they're doing it. But I applaud them for it.
I applaud them for it too. And this isn't the first time that major sports has done this move. In 1990 or 2016, when the Carolinas were talking about the whole gender, and the ACC said we're not going to have any championship games there. And now you're playing with Duke basketball and North Carolina basketball back when they were good. We can say that because Baylor won it all, right, Austin?
Just in case you needed a reminder.
And but they said we're going to pull out, and there's not going to be championship games in your states, and they reversed it quickly. So I'm glad that they did that. But to your point, Hattie, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're not just saying it for
finally.
And so you talk about these big corporations who are taking a stand against it. Are they going to move their headquarters out of Georgia?
I don't know that. Some of them don't have headquarters in Georgia. The point being is it is taken so people have had enough. After what happened at the Capitol, people have had enough. And if we don't take back control of our country in the right way, we're going to lose a lot more than we're going to gain.
Totally fair. And but I do want to kind of mention this. Are companies maybe being hypocritical at times when they speak out on issues that are happening in the U.S., but they completely stay silent on human rights violations that are happening in China? We look at Apple, Delta, Coca-Cola. Those are businesses that were very open on communicating their thoughts on what is happening in Georgia. But when it comes to, the Uyghurs and China, where there's like genocide going on, the NBA has a camp in that province. Major League Baseball has invested in China. Does it kind of make these companies hypocritical when they're talking about voting rights issues in the United States, and then there are literal concentration camps in the regions that they operate and have factories in China? Does it make these companies hypocritical?
I think you got to pick your battles in this case. We've always been involved in other countries in their issues and giving money and supporting and being involved. And we've always ignored what was going on here at home, as far as I'm concerned. And now that something serious has happened, we're deciding to focus on it and do something about it. We're going to get labeled as hypocrites. I don't think so. That's too strong of a word for me. It's like you can't win, no matter what you try to do. We have suffered so much crap here in the U.S., going to wars in Afghanistan, helping other countries, doing everything for other countries, and we have neglected our own people right here at home. So make up your mind. You damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
And I think that companies feel that they can actually impact change here in the United States, whereas China, they know that it's impossible to impact change.
I think the original point of this start of the conversation was talking about whether leadership or CEOs should be able to speak their thoughts, and I do, because if they believe for something, they should be able to, especially if it's for the good of society and things like that. I think it's a different topic when companies, Major League Baseball, NBA, Nike, they're trying to do what's best for the shareholders, and so they're going to do where the profit is and things like that. And so that's where I think, Hattie, you hit the nail on the head, is they're going to do what's profit. They need to focus on where they are. Do I personally think they're a little bit hypocritical for taking a stand against one thing and then turning around and tolerating it in another place? Absolutely. But I don't know what I can do about it. And I think Nike, Austin, you said it best, is can these companies really change or influence other countries?
It's also about mixed messages. You got to make sure that your messages are consistent, no matter where you go or what you do. Communications has to be consistent, it has to be clear, and it has to be actionable, and it has to be impactful. So whether you're going to try to influence China on whatever that is, make sure your message is consistent.
Yeah.
If you're going to pull out of China, make sure that message is consistent. No matter what you do, at the end of the day, CEOs, companies have to communicate, but they have to be consistent in what they do, and then do what you say you're going to do. Don't talk about it, be about it.
So we want to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Have you had an experience with a CEO or a company maybe engaging in social issue conversations? Has your company done it? What has the response been? How do you communicate that to employees? Let us know. Send us an email, podcast@ibchouston.com. Drop a comment below in the chat if you're not following us on social media, mention us @BizCommunicator. And we're curious to hear your thoughts specifically on this issue.
You've been listening to the Business Communicators.